Hi YouTube, welcome to another edition of Horror Hands, and for this video I'm going to go through all the Blu-rays and DVDs that I picked up in the month of July. Let's get straight to it. So first movie up this month is .com for Murder. Just got this one the other day, picked this one up from HMV. Looks like an interesting one, looks like a kind of millennial horror, all taking place online, on the internet, that kind of thing. I think it's like this woman that's using these chat rooms and there's a murderer in the midst, going around killing people. So I'm hoping this one will have like the early 2000s vibe. But it's got an interesting cast. Natasha Kinski's in this, and then randomly like Huey Lewis and Roger Daltrey both in this. So it'll be interesting to see how they all come together and what this movie's like. So looking forward to checking this one out. So yeah, .com for Murder. Looks kind of cool. Next up from 88 Films, I picked up A Candle for the Devil, which I have seen. I saw this a few years ago as It Happened at Nightmare Inn. I have a very old DVD of it under that title, and the picture quality on that is pretty rough. So I saw this in HMV, it was pretty cheap, so I thought I'll grab this Blu-ray. It's got a nice slipcover and that kind of thing. I don't remember the movie being all that great. It's kind of like a really slow burn. I think it might be Spanish or something like that, where these two women rock up in this old creepy hotel. But yeah, not a great deal happens. But I will check it out at some point and see what it's like, see if I enjoy it any better. I often find that a bit better picture quality helps with these kind of movies. So yeah, pretty nice edition from 88 Films, and as I say, pretty cheap in HMV at the moment. So yeah, pretty nice release there of A Candle for the Devil. Next up from Warner Brothers, I picked up Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. So the iconic 50s movie. We have this woman who just becomes giant and starts trouncing the town. She's not in it all that much, to be honest. There's a lot of talking in this one. It takes a while for it to get to the 50-foot woman, and she just sort of comes into it towards the end of the movie. Good to see it, but it wasn't great. It certainly wouldn't be one of my go-tos from the 1950s, but I am happy to add it to the collection. As I say, it is quite an iconic movie from the 50s with this giant woman, particularly this image here. But yeah, I've got to say, I found the actual movie to be a bit of a talkathon, really. So yeah, not one that I would recommend straight away in terms of the old 1950s movies. Next up, I picked up Attack of the Killer Refrigerator, which is a title that I couldn't resist. So I definitely wanted to pick up this Blu-ray. I'll talk about this one a little bit. The movie itself is very, very low budget. It's shot on video, but it's one of the kind of the scuzziest shot on video movies that I've ever seen. It's barely watchable, if I'm honest. And the other thing is, the movie, call it a movie, it's only about 15 minutes long. Now this Blu-ray wasn't exactly cheap, so I did feel that it was a little bit of a Swizz release, being only 15 minutes long and so tacky looking, and being, you know, a prime price Blu-ray. I thought it was a little bit, I don't know, but it does come with a second film which is equally as cheap and tacky. I think that one's about 40 minutes, but just watch this one. You know, don't fork out massive money for this, because there's really nothing to see here. If you like your shot on video stuff, it's definitely an interesting title. It's for like a very amateurish attempt, but as I say, it is only 15 minutes long. The price I paid more than £1 per minute, if you want to work it out that way. It certainly wasn't worth that. It's a very cool title. It's, you know, a bit of a shot on video oddity, so it's a cool release in that way, but whether that short runtime warrants the full price, I don't know. But Attack of the Killer Refrigerator, I couldn't resist a title like that. Next up, I picked up Blood Rain, which is based on a video game, I believe. And yeah, never heard good things about this one over the years. Give it a watch. It's passably entertaining. I thought it was okay. You can tell it's kind of loose in the story department. It doesn't surprise me to see that it's based on a video game, but Kristanna Loken, she's like this vampire woman going around the country killing off vampires and things like that. I forgot most of it, if I'm honest with you. Great cast. They got some good people in this. Ben Kingsley, Michael Madsen, Billy Zane, Michelle Rodriguez. There's quite a few interesting people. Meatloaf is in it. I think Udo Kier was in it as well, actually. So, best thing about this is definitely the cast. As I say, it was mildly entertaining. I did enjoy it for what it was, but yeah, it's definitely not anything special. I've just seen this movie sort of floating around for a long time, and it's always really cheap. So I finally picked it up, and yeah, I added it to the collection. But yeah, it was okay for what it was. There's some sequels, I might check them out if they see them cheap enough. So yeah, Blood Rain, it was okay. Next up, from Vinegar Syndrome, I picked up Boggy Creek 2, which I really enjoyed. I did a full review of this a few videos back, so I won't spend too much time on this one. I will just say again, I said it in that video, but for anyone that's thinking of shelling out for this Blu-ray, the film is incomplete. There is 2 minutes missing from the beginning. It's a really cool scene that they seem to not have in the movie, so I don't know what's up with that. I did send Vinegar Syndrome a nice email to let them know. I got sort of a generic response back saying they'll look into it, but it was really disappointing to have such a nice release and see that they'd left out 2 minutes of the movie. And it is like Bigfoot action that they leave out, which is pretty disappointing. But other than that, I did love the movie. I love Boggy Creek films. I love Bigfoot films. So this was a delight to watch. And it is a nice release. So yeah, as I say, I've got a full review of this one if you want to check that out. But yeah, pretty nice stuff from Vinegar Syndrome here. As I say, it's just missing some of the film. Next up, I picked up Uli Lamel's Boogeyman II. Now, this is a real kind of bargain basement, cheap DVD. I only picked this up because right now, I don't think there's any kind of great way to own Boogeyman 2 or Revenge of the Boogeyman, and I need it to own all the video nasties. So this is, right now, this is kind of a placeholder until they bring out a nice actual release of that movie. I don't even think this is the original movie, how it was presented in the early 80s. It's a very tacked together kind of thing and was really not very good, virtually unwatchable. So it is what it is. I don't recommend getting this. It's just, as I say, for me right now, it's the closest I can get to owning Boogeyman 2. Unless there's another edition out there, please let me know if there is. But yeah, not really anything to say about this and nothing to recommend. I am getting this just for sort of completion purposes to get all the video nasties. Next up, I picked up Claude, The Legend of Sasquatch. This was okay. It was pretty decent for what it was. It's kind of like half Bigfoot movie, half teens lost in the woods horror kind of thing. These high schoolers, they go out into the woods tracking Bigfoot, trying to see if the legend's true or not. And of course, they start getting stalked and hunted by this Bigfoot creature. And there's a few sort of deaths of other people in the woods as well. So yeah, it was average. It was okay. I liked it for what it was. I liked the mix of teen horror and Bigfoot. You get to see the Bigfoot creature towards the end. It looks pretty cool. I think it's like a guy in a suit. So that was awesome. Some nice cinematography in this one. So yeah, as far as Bigfoot movies go, I thought it was pretty cool. Quite enjoyed this one. Next up, from 88 Films, I picked up Curse 2, The Bite, which is like a snake-related horror film. This one was alright. It was very slow. It's more like a road movie. They're on the road going somewhere. It seems to take them forever to get anywhere. And yeah, it's just really, really plodding. And this guy, he is bitten by a snake and it kind of turns him into a half snake monster, but again it just takes forever to get there, and he turns into a monster right at the end of the movie. A nice release from 88 Films. Gotta say though, for such a nice Blu-ray release, it's bare bones. There is no special features on this, which is kind of disappointing. But I'm mainly getting it for the alternative artwork. I want to keep it as this, The Bite, which is the movie that I've always known it as. So it's good to finally check it out. But oh man, yeah, it's pretty slow. But directed by Federico Prosperi, who did all the old Mondo Cane documentaries, and also did a much better film called Wild Beasts, which no one ever talks about. That's the better movie to see by this director. I wouldn't recommend so much Curse 2 or The Bite, just because of how slow it is. But good to finally get this. I like that they did include it as a bite, because as I say, that's how I know it. So yeah, just be prepared. It is pretty slow. Next up, I picked up Dead Again, which this one was really good. It's going to be really hard to explain this one, but I really like the film. It's kind of like a time traveling sort of mystery kind of thing. So Kenneth Branagh, he crosses paths with Emma Thompson, and they seem to have had business like decades before, where he was a classical composer, she was his wife, but it's thought that he kind of murdered her, and it's like, did he or didn't he? And those sort of like violent events start to manifest in the modern times, where Kenneth Branagh and Emma Thompson have recently met. A lot more to it. It's a clever film. I really liked it. Good cast in this one. Andy Garcia's in it. Robin Williams is in this as well. Like, so really far down on the credits, but he plays a really good role as like this kind of weirdo doctor. So yeah, I liked it. As I say, kind of hard to explain this one, but there's a lot going on, but really creative and kind of kept me intrigued throughout. So yeah, this was a pretty nice surprise. Was Dead Again. I did think this was a really good movie. Next up from Culture Shock, I picked up Debbie Does Demons, which I think I mentioned before, sold out really quick on Vinegar Syndrome's website. The slipcover sold out almost immediately. I missed that, so I just had to grab this while it was available. Gotta say, after watching it, not quite sure what the hype was about. It's okay. It's a very low budget indie movie of this woman, like this demon woman, who's like conjures up demons and all these hellish creatures. And then there's a woman called Debbie who has like her own little podcast show, and her and her friends kind of do battle against this evil woman. But as I say, very kind of low budget stuff, kind of amateurish. The acting in it is dreadful. It's really bad acting. But there's some cool kind of gore moments and creatures, albeit very, very cheap looking things. I had fun with it. I enjoyed it. I thought it might be a bit better than what it was, considering how quick it sold out. But if you're okay with very low budget indie kind of things, then there is enjoyment to be had from this one. It's not too bad. Okay, next up is a TV show. I would say it probably aired in the early 2000s, and it's Dr. Terrible's House of Horrible, which is Steve Coogan, who's a sort of famous comedian here in the UK, and it's 6 or 7 TV episodes, and they're all sort of like parodies of the old Hammer Horror and Amicus movies. So they're hosted by Steve Coogan, who is Dr. Terrible, and he stars in the episodes as well. And as I say, they're just really silly episodes, but I found them really funny. Not all of the humour lands, but it is funny. And I definitely enjoyed all kind of the references and the little jokes towards the Hammer and Amicus films. There's like an episode where Steve Coogan plays like a Witchfinder General character. I think he calls himself a witch locator. There's a guy experimenting with like lizard serum and turns himself into a monster. Vampires, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely not for everyone. But if you like a bit of irreverent humour and you like your Hammer and Amicus, I think you'll definitely appreciate some of the jokes and the nods that are in this film. So yeah, I really enjoyed watching it. I watched all the episodes, and yeah, they made me laugh. So yeah, it was fun to watch Dr. Terrible's House of Horrible. Okay, so now next up we have Evil Dead Rise. Heard mixed things about this movie. Gotta say, really didn't enjoy it. I did not like this one at all. Was not an Evil Dead film for me. Didn't feel like an Evil Dead film. had none of the creativity, the passion, or anything that those movies had. So this woman, she goes to visit her sister and her kids in the dankest apartment block you've ever seen. This film looks awful. It's so dark and dingy. I don't know why they've already releasing it on 4K, but yeah, it looks awful. The characters in it, as soon as they were introduced, I disliked every single character in it. They had no kind of character or anything, and just didn't enjoy the film. The demons in it were quite cool. It had some kind of isolated moments that were pretty cool. It's gory, it's violent. Some of the kills were pretty gruesome, but it just lacked whatever it was that Evil Dead had. I've never missed a character so much as Ash Williams in this. I really wish he would have been in the film, but for me, this was just fell completely flat. Really misdirected movie, and yeah, didn't like it at all. Unfortunately, if you liked it, I'm really glad that you did, because yeah, you deserve to have these films come along and enjoy them. But for me, I didn't get anything from Evil Dead Rise. I disliked nearly everything about it, unfortunately. Next up we have The Ghost Train from 1941. So a bit of horror comedy here, a bit of vintage horror comedy. Mainly comedy, which is kind of this movie's downfall. I find old-fashioned comedy very unfunny and quite cringe in a lot of ways, and this one was no exception. The ghost story elements were really good, and the scenes in the old railway station, I feel they actually had a decent horror movie in there somewhere, but it's much more of a comedy vehicle for Arthur Askey, who I have to say is insufferable in this movie. He's so annoying. He's immature, he's hyperactive, jumps around, shouts, sings all the time. And everything that goes wrong is his fault and his doing. And he just goes around acting like an idiot, and you're supposed to kind of find him to be this enduring leading man. And everyone in the station just wants to strangle him, and you kind of get how they feel whilst you're watching this movie. So, not the vintage ghost story that I was hoping for, unfortunately. But never mind, we'll soldier on. Next up, I picked up Gothica, which I haven't seen for many years. And I enjoyed it back in the day, and I enjoyed watching it again. It was a pretty enjoyable film. With lots of early 2000s vibes in this one. But yeah, Halle Berry, she's like a psychiatrist, but she ends up being admitted into this creepy psychiatric ward herself after she's supposedly killed her husband. But there's all kind of ghostly things going on and weird visions and that kind of thing, and you've got to kind of get to the bottom of this weird sort of supernatural mystery. But yeah, I liked it. Robert Downey Jr. plays her therapist, and I just thought it was a cool movie. I like the Limp Bizkit song in this as well. They covered Behind Blue Eyes, and I actually quite like that version, so that was a cool addition to the movie. But yeah, Gothica, cool film. It was good to finally get this. Next up from Scream Factory, I picked up The Guardian, which I had this movie on a compilation. I've got it here. I've had this compilation for years. This Ultimate Horror thing here, which just showed you various little scenes from horror movies. And The Guardian was on this. And yeah, I've had that for years and never seen the film. So when I saw that this had been released, I thought I'd like to check it out. I'd like to see the whole movie. So it's not too bad. It's William Friedkin actually that directs it, but yeah, it was okay. It's this family that have this baby, and they hire a nanny to look after the baby, but she is like evil. She's connected to this weird tree that sort of possesses you and kills you. So yeah, not too bad. It kind of felt a little bit like a daytime TV movie for a lot of it, for the whole kind of like nanny and all the baby stuff. But it had a couple of kind of gory deaths in it, which were pretty cool. Kind of took me by surprise. And I did really like the kind of the haunted demonic tree aspect. You don't see that very much in movies, and it was a cool looking tree. So that bit was okay. Very average movie on the whole, but cool to actually finally see the whole thing after just seeing snippets of it for years and years. So yeah, cool to finally get The Guardian. Next up, I got The Hanging Woman. Now, I've got to thank Alan Scouser for this. He sent me this one. Thank you, Alan. Really appreciate you sending me this. I don't think he enjoyed the movie all that much, so was very kind enough to pass it on to me. I did quite like it. It was okay for what it was. It's from the 70s, and it's I don't know if it's filmed in the Scottish Highlands. I think it's at least set there. So got a lot of quite like gloomy countryside and sort of crooked graveyards and things like that, which I appreciated. They added quite a creepy ambience to the movie. And yeah, it was a bit plodding in some ways. It's this guy who comes into town and finds this hanging woman in the cemetery and has to sort of try and get to the bottom of it, but there's sort of weird goings on and things like that. Paul Nash is in it, but he's a very small role for him. I actually, at times, I even forgot he was in the film. He does take a back seat in this one, but yeah, it was okay for what it was. So yeah, again, thank you, Alan, for sending me this. Really appreciate it. So yeah, it was. I thought it was okay. Next up, I picked up I Spit on Your Grave 3, which seems to be becoming a bit of a franchise now. I don't know why, but we're on the third one now. At least I am. There might be another one after this, but I haven't watched this one yet. I do actually quite enjoy them for what they are. They're nothing special, but yeah, they're okay. So yeah, I'll check this one out soon and see what this one's like. Next up from Vinegar Syndrome, we have Intrusion. And I don't know what to say about this one. This is a bit of a weird one. It's kind of a home invasion kind of thing where this guy breaks into this woman's house and just like violates her for the whole runtime. But there's no story whatsoever, and it's very X-rated in its presentation. So I don't really know where this one would sit. It's not kind of nice enough to be in the X-rated like Peakorama camp, but there's not enough here for it to be a horror film. It's a very strange one. Tonally, it's very weird and quite uncomfortable to watch. So yeah, really strange one, Intrusion. It was kind of interesting to watch because it's just so weird and out of place. And yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting addition to the collection, but nothing, very hard to recommend. I don't know who would enjoy this film. It's just is a strange one. Like I say, tonally very weird. So yeah, Intrusion. It was yeah, it's odd. Next up, I picked up The Lake, which I haven't watched yet, but it looks really cool. This giant monster creature coming from the lake. So I'm hoping to watch this one soon. Hopefully I'll enjoy it. Definitely looks like my kind of movie. So yeah, hoping this one will be good. Next up from Arrow, I picked up their new release of The Lighthouse. This is the first time I've seen this movie. A bit late to the party on this one. This was a weird one as well. Not quite sure what to think about this one. It's Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson are these two lighthouse keepers stranded on this desolate island and just kind of operating this lighthouse in the very sort of bleak seaside countryside. It's all a black and white film, very oldie-fashioned feel. It's from the same director as The Witch, and you can certainly tell. It explores some kind of dark themes. There's a lot of kind of madness between them where they just kind of get cabin fever, and I think the isolation sets in. They start to turn on each other and get a bit paranoid. There's a bit of something maybe about this weird mermaid creature and this strange squid creature. But yeah, it's all quite subtextual in a lot of places. Gotta say, I was really impressed with Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. Willem Dafoe seems like he's absolutely loving the role as this crazy lighthouse keeper. And I really like Robert Pattinson as the more kind of quieter of the two, who's clearly got a bit of a dark past and some skeletons in the closet, and just seeing how they kind of coexist and then at times want to kill each other. So yeah, it's a strange one. I'm not too sure what I think about it. There's things I liked about it, there's things I didn't like about it. I did like the kind of the oldie-fashioned maritime feel of this. I did think that was very good and quite unique. So yeah, definitely things about it I did like, but again, it's a weird one. It certainly won't be for everyone. Next up, I picked up Megan, and I did enjoy this one. I thought this one was good. This woman, she's like into technology in some kind of way, and she's engineered this super intelligent AI toy called Megan, and she's just adopted her niece, and so pairs Megan up with her niece to help look after her and teach her things and that kind of thing. And as I say, Megan's this super intelligent toy that wants to learn all about your child and wants to support it and be their best friend, that kind of thing. But of course, this technology, it starts to get a mind of its own and starts to get a little bit evil, and yeah, starts to there's a few deaths of the people that threaten Megan's existence. But I thought it was a really cool film, very relevant in this day and age with kind of AI and the continual use of advancing technology and where it might lead. And yeah, it was pretty cool. And then Megan, when she gets a bit banged up and that, towards the end, she looks pretty creepy. And yeah, some cool deaths in it, a bit of gore. And yeah, I like the story. It was, I would say, quite a clever horror movie, quite relevant. And yeah, it is one that I did enjoy. So yeah, good to pick up Megan. Next up, I picked up this Mexican Gothic set. This is 3 films from Carlos Enrique Taboada. Haven't had a chance to watch them there. I will dip into this one at some point and hopefully they'll be okay. But yeah, I haven't got around to watching this. They do look pretty interesting though. So if you've seen any of these, let me know which ones you liked. Yeah, I will get round to this set soon. Next up, I picked up The Night of the Killer Bears. Another awesome title, but it's another one that I was kind of disappointed in. I think this is from Thailand, so this one is dubbed, but really badly. Really bad dubbing in this one. And it's not really killer teddy bears, it's a killer that wears like a teddy bear mask. So I was hoping for more killer teddy bears, but didn't get that. It's okay, it drags in a lot of places, there's a bit of gore in it and that kind of thing. But yeah, I didn't really like this one all that much, unfortunately. So yeah, probably not one that I would return to. Next up, I picked up Night School. This is another one for the Video Nasties collection. This one is a pretty good slasher movie. I did enjoy this one. It's kind of run-of-the-mill, but I liked it for what it was. Not sure why it quite made the Video Nasties list over all the other slasher movies. There's a few scenes of women in peril, and there's one scene at the beginning where a woman is killed on a children's merry-go-round. So whether the censors are uncomfortable with violence relating to children's play equipment, I don't know. Who knows what the censors think? But yeah, I liked it. Got a cool-looking killer in the motorcycle outfit. That was awesome. And yeah, I just thought it was a decent slasher film. So good to finally check out Night School. Next up, from Vinegar Syndrome, I picked up the 4K release of Night Screams. This was okay. It was slow in places, but did have a few good kills in it. I think it's a killer that kills people off at a party. To be honest, I watched this at the beginning of the month and I've already forgotten most of it. So clearly nothing too special, but nice 4K release here from Vinegar Syndrome anyway. Next up, from Kino, I picked up Night Tide, which was another interesting one. This is Dennis Hopper in, I think, his first film, and he's a sailor that's on leave, and he ends up sort of meeting and becoming besotted with this woman, but she's like a mermaid creature, and so yeah, I think she like kills a few people. That kind of thing. It's another one I watched right at the beginning of the month. I did enjoy it. It's another weird one and another kind of bizarre maritime kind of movie, almost like a dark fairy tale thing. But it's okay. It's pretty interesting. It's quite whimsical in places and interesting to see Dennis Hopper in his first film role. So yeah, cool to watch this one. It was, yeah, definitely an interesting watch. Next up, I picked up the Pope's Exorcist. So this is supposedly based on a true story of the Catholic Church's chief exorcist, played here by Russell Crowe. And in this, they send him somewhere to exorcise this young boy who's been possessed by a demon. So it's okay. It's just another one of these possession films where they just, after The Exorcist, they just can't seem to do them right. And this one, it tries to be scary. It's got the possessed kid sort of shouting and swearing and things like that, but it just comes across as more hokey and comedic than anything else. Russell Crowe, I thought he was great. He's a great actor, Russell Crowe. I'm not sure about him playing an exorcist. He's a little bit too macho, I thought. I always imagine an exorcist as like a more of a elderly gentleman that's not got much in sort of physique or strength, but has like the power of the church behind him. And I just thought Russell Crowe was a bit too macho for that role, but it was okay. It was like a decent popcorn movie, so yeah, it was all right. Next up, we have another demonic possession movie here with Pray for the Devil. This one sees a woman. She joins one of the Vatican's school for exorcisms, where priests can go and learn how to perform exorcisms. And it's like a facility where they have possessed people in rooms where the priests can kind of go and practice exorcising them. I thought that was a very strange concept. But anyway, she does this, and there's a girl that's possessed, and this woman is convinced it's the same demon that possessed her mum years before. So she is she's determined to get rid of this demon and save the young girl. Again, it's the problem they have is they just can't do possession films after The Exorcist. No one has ever been able to do it, and this is another one that just feels a little bit hokey and just doesn't have any kind of weight or substance to it. It's just a problem that they have with possession films. I don't know why they bother. I don't know why people want to make them after The Exorcist. But this, okay, again, it's another kind of entertaining popcorn movie, but nothing else really to see here. Just kind of mildly entertaining. It's got a couple of creepy scenes, but that is about it for this one. Next up, I picked up Queen of the Damned, which I've never seen. Remember this coming out a long time ago now with, is it Aliyah? She was like an R&B singer that passed away, but she plays like a vampire queen in this one. A sequel to Interview with a Vampire, I believe, which I really like that movie, so I will see what this one's like. But this will be interesting to check this out after I've known about it for years, but I've never got round to watching it. So I'm looking forward to checking this one out soon. Next up, I picked up Renfield, which was a mixed bag. There's things about it that I liked, things about it that didn't quite work for me. I didn't quite like how Renfield was portrayed. Great actor that plays him, but he was a little bit kind of awkward, a bit effeminate, a bit sort of naive, and I don't know, I just imagine Renfield, someone that's been serving Dracula for centuries. I just present them in a different way, I'm not sure. Some of the humour was funny, some of it didn't land, some of it's a bit too modern for me, shall we say. But certainly worth watching for Nicolas Cage as Count Dracula. He was fantastic. I thought he was fantastic anyway. I wanted to see it for him, and that didn't disappoint me. It looks like he had lots of fun with that role, and he certainly sort of chewed up the scenery whenever he was on screen. I kind of wanted a bit more of him in the movie. So yeah, a mixed bag for me, as I say, but I did enjoy it. Definitely worth watching to see Nicolas Cage ham it up as Dracula. Next up from Vinegar Syndrome is Runaway Nightmare, which was pretty awful. I really struggled with this one. I don't even think I finished it. This is these two guys in the desert that come across like this cult of women that kidnap them and take them prisoner and have something planned for them, but it's so weird and all over the place. There were times when I thought it was trying to be a comedy, but I really couldn't tell. I don't think the movie knew what it wanted to do, and I really didn't enjoy this one. Wouldn't recommend this one at all. Unfortunately, it was really bad. Next up from 88 Films, I picked up The Seventh Curse. So this is another one of their kind of martial arts / horror movies. They've been a bit of a mixed bag for me, but this one was really cool. This one was a bit of a hidden gem. Kind of starts out as like a martial arts action film, kind of like something that John Woo would do, but then quickly goes to just crazy kind of jungle horror, body horror, and all that kind of thing. This guy's trying to lift this curse by getting some kind of amulet from the jungle, but there's like just these monsters that come after him and these creatures. There's a bit like a cannibal element to it as well, because there's these like jungle tribes, but just lots and lots of really cool practical 80s effects and monsters and creatures all kind of mixed in with this action and martial arts stuff going on as well. So very, very entertaining movie. I did really like this one. And then at the end you've got Chow Yun-fat just comes into it and starts bazookaing everything. So yeah, absolutely crazy, but very, very entertaining. I did like The Seventh Curse. Next up from Vinegar Syndrome, I picked up Sick of Me, which was very clever film, very, very good. It's about this attention-seeking young woman, and clearly got sort of narcissistic traits, BPD, whatever, and it's the lengths she will go to for attention, which, and in particular kind of sympathy attention. So always wanting to be the victim, having some kind of ailment, just so she can get sympathy and all eyes on her. And it leads her to taking this, I don't know, illegal, unprescribed medication that she gets from Russia or something. She ends up just constantly popping these pills, and it descends into a horrific body horror in how it affects her and what it does to her. And it ruins her skin, her face. She becomes frail and has all kind of health problems. So of course everyone around her is really concerned and visiting her in hospital, and she loves it. It just absolutely fuels her. And strangely, she starts to become more and more successful the more horrifically disfigured she makes herself. Like, she becomes a model and she gets famous. She's on talk shows and news shows, but all the time she's just pumping goodness knows what into her and destroying her body and her face and her skin and everything. So a lot of social satire in this one. It's got a lot of kind of drama aspects, but then, as I say, some really horrifying body horror aspects to it as well. It's a fascinating film. I really, really enjoyed it, and as I say, it's very clever. So definitely one that I would recommend from Vinegar Syndrome. A bit of an indie feel to it. But yeah, the length that she goes to and the way it all pans out is just really well done. So yeah, a bit of a hidden gem for me, this one was. I wasn't expecting much from it, but yeah, Sick of Myself, really good film. Next up, I picked up Single White Female, which was really good, like a psychological kind of movie, crazy roommate kind of thing. Bridget Fonda, she gets a roommate to live with her, but she is pretty crazy and does a lot of things to mess with Bridget Fonda, and it just gets kind of more and more intense as the film goes along, and it's all like cat and mouse kind of thing. I really enjoyed it. Very good kind of thriller from the 90s. So yeah, good to see this one, because I've never seen it before. So yeah, cool movie. Next up, I picked up Swim. So Haven't watched it yet, but love that artwork. I'm sure this will be another just crappy shark film, but I can't resist them, especially with an awesome cover like this. So I will check this out at some point soon. But yeah, I'm sure I'll like it in some way. But yeah, so another crappy shark film to add to the collection. Swim. Next up from 88 Films, I picked up Tentacles. Oh, one of the worst of the Jaws rip-offs. I watched it years ago and wasn't impressed with it then, so I saw 88 Films have brought it out. Really nice edition, by the way. Lovely slipcase, quite Vinegar Syndrome-esque slipcase on this one. And yeah, thought I'd give it another go. Still as terrible as what I remember. But yeah, this one is a killer octopus killing people off in this seaside community. It's pretty boring. There's a lot of talking in it, and it's quite downbeat. It's very clumsily made film, very shoddily put together. They attempt to do a number of things like what Jaws did. So there's a scene with some like kids in peril and things like that, but it's just not very good. You just don't care about anyone or anything in the film. Starts out pretty downbeat. There's a baby that becomes a victim of the octopus straight away, and it's a real sort of downer way to start the film, and it never quite picks up from that, to be honest. The octopus, you don't see it much. It's not a good one. Good cast. Henry Fonda's in this one, so good to see him, and a few others, but none of them look like they want to be there, to be honest. It's not a good one. For Jaws rip-off collectors only, I would say, is Tentacles. Next up, I picked up VHS 99. Now, I love the VHS movies. I have all of them. I really enjoyed them up until now. Gotta say, this is easily the weakest of the lot. There were 5 segments in this one. I think I enjoyed one of them. One was okay. The rest were really bad. But one in particular was almost unwatchable. And that one was the first one. So it really didn't set the movie up all that well. So really disappointed with this movie. As I say, all the others, in my opinion, have been really strong. I've highly enjoyed all the VHS ones. This one is a significant drop in quality, and one that I unfortunately would not recommend. Even though I do love the franchise overall. So yeah, also did nothing to capture like 1999. I was hoping it would have some late 90s vibes. There was none of that. It was pretty bad. The whole thing was pretty bad, to be honest. So yeah, unfortunate. If they do another one, hopefully it'll be better than what this one is. Next up, I picked up the Villages of the Damned box set from Vinegar Syndrome. This is 3 horror movies from Spain. Now, I have watched one of them called The Sky is Falling. Starred Dennis Hopper, actually. But it was absolutely awful. One of the worst things I've ever seen. Couldn't even make it through the whole film. It was just a really weird, trippy, unentertaining mess of a film. And I switched it off halfway through. So it's kind of put me off watching the other 2 movies. I will give them a watch. I don't know if they're going to be any better. I hope they are. But yeah, that first one was so bad. I have not returned to this box set since, which is a shame because it's a lovely box set, packaged really nicely from Vinegar Syndrome. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully the other 2 will be better than the first one. Gosh, I can't imagine they'll be any worse. But yeah, that is the Villages of the Damned Spanish box set from Vinegar Syndrome. Finally, I picked up Jess Franco's Women Behind Bars. I've said before, I'm not a big fan of women in prison movies, but I'm getting this for the Video Nasties collection. This was one of the official 72 movies. I watched it a few days ago and I've already forgotten it, if I'm honest with you. It's, as I say, it's not my kind of film, and yeah, this one didn't do much for me, but I'm glad to have it, as I say, for the old Video Nasties connection. So that's everything that I got this month, guys. Let me know what you think of these movies. Any that you like, any that you didn't like, let me know. So thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.